And I gather you've talked about the effects on you and said that you were unprepared for them.
Well, I just I didn't think about it, and it wasn't on my radar. I had a couple of friends who were talking about things. And it was only when I started doing the podcast and I realized that some of the things, maybe increased anxiety, a little bit of disturbed sleep, things like that, these were all symptoms of menopause. When I grew up, it was not a conversation that the older women in the family necessarily had in open. There might be one aunt who had hot flushes and that was kind of the night sweats. That was the thing that seemed to be the most overriding symptom. But actually, the list of symptoms for menopausal women are huge. And some of them can be confused with other things. So mental health, for example, is an area that, is sometimes a woman's anxiety and the way she's feeling about the world and herself actually is pertaining to the menopause and her hormone levels dropping off. And that level of anxiety can lead to women deciding to quit their careers at a point when they should be pushing on and getting onto boards and being, at the top of the heap. So I think it's really important. The reason I said about men in the discussion, I just think everything's better if we both sides talk about things, to have the idea that something that's going on to 50% of the population is only talked about by them is ridiculous for me. I think if a man was going through all of this, we'd probably be able to get HRT from vending machines.
Well, do you think men would be receptive to lessons in it or some form of just help understanding it?
Yeah, it's interesting. My husband often goes off for his morning walk listening to podcasts. And one day he came back and he listened to the podcast I did with Davina McCall. And he came and he said, wow, he said, I think every man should listen to that. He said, I learned a lot. And that's with somebody who has a really open dialogue. We talk about everything and he's very in touch with kind of, his feminine side. And he's not at all kind of, feeling icky about anything that, he wants to talk about. Not that I want to kind of reveal, every deepest, darkest thing kind of that's going on with me. But I think it's really important that your partner, the person you live with, the person who supports you, understands what's going on. And then he started looking at himself and thinking, well, actually, there's things about me that have changed in the last few years as I'm approaching 50. And I think maybe men also need to have that kind of frank conversation with themselves. Men's testosterone drops off too, Jeremy, but it just does it at a slower rate.